evening, everybody. I am Liz Walker. Welcome to our live stream from the heart, searching for healing. You know, every week you come here on Tuesday nights, we're doing something a little different. Tonight we had that beautiful jazz music, and we have a new title called From the Heart. That's what I believe speaks to me and speaks about me. We are so glad you're with us. We have a really good show tonight. We're going to look back at the origins of the Can We Talk program, the Can We Talk sharing for healing. So before we do that, one of the things that we're trying to do, the most important thing we're trying to do is grow this community. That's why we have the music. That's why we're on Yard Stream. That's why we have guests and videos. We want more people to come join us. So we need your help. If you're out there, and we know a few of you are, we're just asking you to either share this on your feed or you can DM 5 people, just 5. And that way we know our community will grow. Tonight, as I said, we're going to look at my book, which will be released April 8th. And the title of the book is No One Left Alone: How Community Helps Us Heal. I'm going to slow down so that Micah can put that book up and you can get to see it. No One Left Alone: How Community Helps Us Heal. These are a couple of the wonderful endorsements that I got from the book. You know who Brian Stevenson is, and of course you know who Father Gregory Boyle is. They are 2 of my friends, and they wrote lovely things about the book. The book will be released April 8th. It's the culmination of a 4-year writing project, but mainly it's a culmination of a healing community that was started at my church, Roxbury Presbyterian Church in Boston. A neighborhood is wonderful. 90% of the people, 99% of the people are wonderful, but a neighborhood that went through a lot of changes and still is going through a lot of changes and has many challenges. There's a lot of poverty in the neighborhood. There is violence in the neighborhood. There is drug addiction in the neighborhood. So most of the people are confronting these issues and these challenges with courage, but these issues can leave us hurt. These issues can leave us wounded. We're going to show you a video that we produced back in 2017 to tell you a little bit about our neighborhood in Roxbury, Massachusetts. I used to be a television news reporter before I became a pastor. And so we put this video together as we begin to think of how we could respond, what we could do to help a wounded community heal. So the video is called How We Heal. And Micah, if you'll play it whenever you're ready, we can show people where we started.
War zone. There's always cops flying down the street. There's always a crime scene going on.
My son left out of the house, told me he would be back, soon. And he ended up on a bus where he was texting on his brand new phone that he got for Christmas. And apparently somebody that was sitting behind him began stabbing him repeatedly. So he never even knew what was happening.
My story about my friend Dre, who died when we were little kids. But then he got shot. While I saw him laying on the ground, I was traumatized.
I lost my son Jimmy, who was my oldest son, in August 20th, 1981. What happened was he had asked me could he go out to go to the block party. He wasn't gone 10 minutes when the kids ran back and said, "Miss Flint, Jimmy's been stabbed."
While we tend to think of post-traumatic stress disorder in terms of war or terrorist attacks, in fact, it can be the result of simply living in a neighborhood where violence is too often the norm, like the neighborhood surrounding Roxbury Presbyterian Church.
It was exactly 2:22. I don't know why I remember that, but I do. And the phone was ringing. I picked it up, and the other voice said, "You better get to Brigham and Women because Corey has been shot." I think I knew right away that he was gone. But it was a kind of numb feeling.
Deborah's son Corey was murdered in 2010, and she, like hundreds of others in our neighborhood, struggles to heal.
I helped my next door neighbor bury her son who was murdered in Walgreens parking lot, and they threatened to kill my child at least 9 times. So
Every week, we open the doors of Roxbury Presbyterian Church for healing.
What we now know about trauma is, I think, one of the worst symptoms that come from it is the disconnection. And people will tell you that they're disconnected from themselves. And the more that we learn about this, we realize that connection and reconnecting is the way through healing.
Small details matter when you do landscaping.
For teenagers, there is the CUSP program, Common Unity Summer Intensive.
I think it's a great starter program for anyone to get their kids involved and to get a job and have some job experience and have job skills.
For younger children, there is Learning Out Loud, a trauma-informed tutoring program.
What we provide here is a safe environment, and we give them an experience, again, where learning can be fun, where they're interacting and they're having fun while they're learning, but they're also building their social skills.
Our biggest event is Can We Talk? The last Thursday of each month, we invite people to gather to confront their pain.
My trauma started when I was about 10 years old. My family sent me to a summer camp up in Maine, and sadly, for the summer, I was raped by a Catholic priest.
Before, when I hear about all the shootings, it was always been, that's a shame. But now that I'm a mother who has lost a son, in my mind, it's another mother that's crying, another family that's broken, another family that has to go through the pain. And I just want to just send a message saying, this must stop. We as a people, we must stop this.
And just sitting there listening to people. At first I wouldn't talk, so I'm talking tonight. But you would just sit there and listen to people. And what I've learned about trauma is if you hold it in, it consumes you. It takes your body over. So now I talk about my son's story, and I talk about my life and the things that have happened in my life, and hoping that other people will hear these stories and come out and be able to talk about their story.
Why did you decide to put yourself out and join these public conversations about trauma?
Because I think I'm ready to do something. I want to be able to help someone. Even though I feel like I'm not, or I will never be over it, I feel I'm in a place now where I can reach out to somebody. Because, you know, when I see people who are just so raw, you know, like it just happened and they're just numb, I feel like maybe I could say something that would help them.
So we tell our stories with shared meals and music. We learn to heal one voice, one step at a time.
Really old. We did that back in 2017. When you have that kind of violence in any community, or that those kinds of horrible disruptions, the first thing you want to do is stop it, of course. So you have marches, you have a social justice program, you go to the police, you meet with the mayor, you do all those kinds of things, and those are all good. But what we realized in Roxbury was that those were just part of the issue, that people were walking around wounded, and we needed to do something to help people in the insides of them, not just to do the social justice thing, because that's important, but to help people psychologically and emotionally and spiritually. So we invited a woman to come and help us who had helped us before I got to this church. Her name is Colleen Sharka. She's a licensed mental health clinician. She is also the head of the Can We Talk Replication and Education Program. And Micah, if you would bring her on so we could start our conversation. Colleen is one of my dearest friends. Good to see you. How did you feel looking at that video?
Oh my gosh.
Right?
I feel like I'm at my 1800th reunion for something. It's like, oh man.
All the people that we started out with the
Yeah.
Cancer Talk program. And actually, I wanted to make sure when we talk about this origin story that I talk about in the book, you had come to the church to do grief counseling for Deborah's family years before we started Can We Talk? And even doing the grief counseling was kind of a new thing in a Black community in a church, right? Tell us
Right.
a little bit about that.
I think about a year or two, actually, even before that, we had come and just done grief groups, period, for people in the community.
Presbyterian?
Yes. Just doing a few of those grief groups. And then when Corey passed, and it was months after, because this was about January of 2011. So it had been, 5 or 6 months since he had passed. The pastor was just looking for some way to help some more. And when he called my friend and I, he really said, "Can you do the whole family?" And so it was just an amazing thing where all the way from the grandparents down to some even of the grandchildren would show up over these several, I think it was about 6 to 8 weeks we were doing this. And you never knew who was going to be there. And that was not the typical way you would do a grief group for a whole family. But we just said, just how can we help? We'll show up.
Now, the important thing to know is, and I think most of us who are from the culture, the Black culture, know that we don't do grief groups, excuse me. We don't do that kind of thing outside a church, in a church. In a church, generally,
right.
We look at everything as an act of faith. Everything has to be dealt with through prayer. And usually the pastor is the main counselor, right. and does all that kind of work. So the idea of bringing in someone from the mental health community is really a radical idea back, and that was way back, correct?
Oh, yes, it was. And the woman that I was with was my mentor and friend who was 20 years older than me. And she said, "I've never done anything like this. I've never seen anything like that." So we just thought, let's figure it out together, and whatever they needed, we wanted to do.
What was the biggest learning for you when you dealt with this family, this multi-generational family, in weekly sessions of grief counseling?
Yeah. I'd say it was a couple things. One was that what was especially helpful for them was this was structured time where they were going to come and really listen to each other about feelings and emotions that they weren't sharing probably with each other, and that had been stuffed down, and maybe they'd be worrying about each other so much that they wouldn't even have thought to do that. So just the safe space and the structured space where someone else that wasn't within their family was holding it for them and, trying to lead it and facilitate it, I think was very helpful for them. So that seemed clear right away. And then I found that, just going over the grief symptoms, just talking about those was so groundbreaking for them. In fact, for Deborah, who you saw in the film, she came in 2 or 3 sessions in and said, "I went to the doctors thinking I had Alzheimer's." And they said, "No, you don't have that, so don't worry." But they really never said to me, "You have trauma instead." And that's what we were saying, that memory troubles are one of the number one symptoms when you have grief, especially traumatic grief.
Absolutely.
Just going over that.
The other thing that I think is so important to remember is that this family comes to a space that they already trust.
Right.
They might not be doing trauma work there, but the church is kind of the institution. I mean, the reason we're doing this program in the church, right, is because it's a trusted institution.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And they felt safe there.
And they did feel safe there. Though, as I said, often churches have limited ways of dealing with this kind of pain.
Yes, indeed.
What does trauma do to us, Colleen? Define trauma?
Yeah.
Well, you said this question earlier.
Yeah, but the main definition we like to use, as you know, in the program, is saying that any event that's happened to you that you decide, not someone else, is traumatic for you, means that it's going to affect you in mind, body, and spirit, and it's going to overwhelm you. And it's then going to impact all the things that you're trying to do in life. So your daily functioning is very much affected. Mm-hmm. So that type of broad umbrella is what we say is the definition.
When we talked to Deborah in this video, Deborah said there was a numbness that came over her right from the very beginning when she first heard about her son.
Mhm.
Is that something that people do go through?
That's one of it. So the next thing I would say is, if you want to think of a simple way of thinking about how it impacts you, it attacks your nervous system. And that means the memory, as I'm talking about, is your brain is part of that nervous system, right? And then when it comes to those emotions, you'd either go from the numb side that Deborah talked about to a whole nother end of the spectrum where you might be so agitated you can't sit still and you're hypervigilant, you're anxious, and you're looking around. So those emotions, and when people talk about trauma healing, there's two main things that have to happen. That nervous system has to calm down, right? So your emotions have to get regulated and normalized somehow. That would be one. And the other is to get some of that traumatic stress out of that body because it gets stuck in there. So you need to do things to move it out, that stress.
Most people in our community where Roxbury Presbyterian Church is located didn't have this kind of information that we're now getting more and more. So what? We were just stuck with our trauma. We didn't even realize it was trauma. What are the conditions when you don't take care of this trauma?
Right. And it's that not knowing, like you said. And back then, and I sadly tell you, it's true for some people today, even in the medical profession, they do not see trauma as widening to all these different ways that we understand it today. Betrayal trauma, trauma from a medical surgery gone wrong, or, any of these many things that we talk about, whether it's violence or an event you went through. So there aren't even all medical professionals that would say to you, yes, you're suffering from some traumatic stress. So when people don't know and they have all these symptoms that are coming from it, they go to doctors, they're not getting answers. And then it gets worse and worse. And now we know so much more that if you leave trauma untreated, you get more physical illness. So then we keep treating the physical illnesses and we never go looking at what was really underneath it was traumatic events. So we're really not treating the source.
So you helped this family for 6 weeks, 8 weeks. What was the period that?
It was about 8 weeks.
8 weeks. And then you went away. I got to Roxbury Presbyterian Church a few years later, and I could see the pain still in this family's face, on their faces. I could see the pain all around the community. A lot of people were, I compare it to dead men walking. People were just, you can see it. I mean, to me, it's all there. And we decided, with the help of Deborah Fitzpatrick and her family, to create a grief group that wasn't necessarily a therapeutic, but would be there. And that was Can We Talk? And you were the person who kind of gave us the magic beans on this, how to really do this. So the difference of Can We Talk than grief counseling is that Can We Talk keeps going, right?
Yes. We're there for the long haul. We're like a second responder. And now we're 10 years in for some people. There literally are some people that have been there with us over 10 years getting this help.
And what are some of the other things that Can We Talk does? Just basic things that you might not get at a grief counseling or you might need more of.
Right. I think I always say the best thing that it offers is that you can be anonymous with no cost and just decide to drop in. You don't need a referral. So you're going and you're sort of got your own control. You're walking in there with your own control, that you're not at the control of a system. And so you come in and then to find out you're going to get a meal. Usually we get a hot meal of some kind, especially in those days. And, so therefore you can check in or check out at any point you want. You don't have to give your name, nothing. So then if you feel safe enough, you're going to go over to the other part of the room where we have chairs set in rows so that we can really have people focusing on a speaker. We're going to invite music with the dancing and in the arts and healing part of it as well. And then beyond that, I'd say it's never a clinical program. It's a peer-led program where we have trained community companions from the community who are your neighbors. They're dealing with things just like you are, trained in ways to be supportive, but also to share their own vulnerability, come alongside you and be community together, because public trauma needs public healing.
Absolutely.
And you just find that and you feel so welcome right from the day one.
The first night that we started this program, we were blown away at all the people. And we just had a sign on our church wall outside. That was our whole marketing plan. Yes. And we had at least 75 people, maybe more than that, came in, had meal, sat down, and shared their stories, who immediately trusted the environment, right?
Yes.
And shared their stories.
Right.
And then people from other communities started asking us questions and wanting to do it, including a community all the way in Gary, Indiana. That blew me away. I thought this was just one little community program, serve a few blocks around our church. But then, so we're going to invite right now Claude Poupolus. Did I pronounce that correct? Poupolus?
Yes, that's right. Claude Poupolus. Hi, Liz.
Right.
Kelly.
Claude Poupolus, who is from Gary, Indiana, and was one of our first, was the first replication program for Can We Talk. Claudia, now you know the origin story of that. You know the, first of all, thank you for being with us tonight. What was the connection? How did that you all find out about Can We Talk?
You know, it's so incredible how it happened. So initially I was not a part of it, but of someone who's become a dear friend of mine, Charlie, and I mess up his last name, so forgive me, Charlie. But he was attending a class at Loyola in Chicago, and also doing some volunteer work in the inner city Chicago. He was a pastor at a neighboring town called Hobart, Indiana, and he heard about the program, and I just got the pieces of this. So he was with his professor told him that he'd been to some kind of conference, and Colleen was there talking about the program. Can We Talk? And when Charlie heard about it, he got so excited. He says, "I'm going." He jumps in his car with his dog, and he drove all the way to Roxbury, and he met you guys. And once he met you, he came back and met a dear friend of mine, Elaine Spicer, and Ruth. I can't think of Ruth's last name right now. He told them about it. They got together, they organized, and they got people in the community to come to meet you guys, because you guys agreed to come to Gary.
Yeah.
I was in that first meeting.
Yes.
And changed my life. When I heard the program, when I heard Deborah and I saw you, I felt my heart leap. This can work. This will work.
Absolutely.
That's how
that's how we started that long time ago.
Yes,
Charlie is a now retired, is a Lutheran pastor, correct?
Right.
And when he walked in I remember when he walked in the church basement with a dog, and our church administrator, she has some tough entrance examinations. Dogs are not a part of her. Come on in. Jesus didn't invite any dogs in the church.
Yes.
But somehow she let Charlie in, and I think Charlie's on because there's this. We keep getting a comment from someone with the education program. I think that's you, Charlie. We're glad you're there.
Well, no, I don't think it's Charlie. It's Temple Israel. I saw someone who was at the training that Colleen gave.
Okay, so from that group. But anyway, we were so excited about that connection with you and Gary and Deanna. And Colleen, do you remember that day or remember?
Oh, do I ever remember it? And he just was like a sponge. He just wanted to soak it all in, and from you knew already he wanted to do it.
Right.
When he came to visit us, and we were thrilled to come out and to go and train them in this and be there and be partners in it.
Excellent. And Claudine, you've been just amazing because you stayed with it. You've changed churches. You've changed this, you've moved and grooved, and we're all learning what pivoting means these days. Back then. And now you've got two wonderful organizations working with Can We Talk. And we have the pastor of one of those organizations, so I didn't want him to wait too long. But tell us the two organizations that are part of Can We Talk in the Gary area.
So one is the City Life Center. It was actually a youth center. It used to be the Boys and Girls Club at one time, and it's in downtown Gary, and a very needed community. And the other is at a church called Flourish, which I also attend now. And so that's my pastor who'll be coming on. So it's in two different locations, which has never happened before. So I feel so inspired, to be a part of when COVID happened, it just left us, but I know it didn't leave you guys. But to have it rebirthed and have it come back and have people open up like they have to say, we need this. and finding other people in the community. It's just been awesome.
Yeah. And I have to say, there is no one that has so held this through so much than you. You know, and I knew, you know, just the way that we find people everywhere who are willing to do Can We Talk. But for you to go through the ideations that you had to go through about where it was going to come in the end, and we just trust every community it was in, even for a little while. It was
Right.
good that it was there, right?
Yes,
And
yes.
needed and did some help. And then COVID particularly, you know, made things difficult. But it's amazing, Claudian, how you've held that.
Yes. Well,
And that's kind of one of the keys of Can We Talk, I think, is the commitment that comes from the people who are a part of it. And Claudine represents that. It only works when the people who are part of the teams that invite people to the space and hold the space to hear other people's stories, when those teams work. So Claudine, we really do honor you for all your work, even though I forgot to put you in the book. Now I know you're going to forgive me for that. Because I'm used to be. That's why I tell everybody there's a biblical text where Jesus says he's going to remember this woman who gave him her all. I think it was Mary, and he said we will, you know, wherever her name is mentioned, you know, we will remember what she did. Well, we're going to remember you the same. But I wanted to go from the past, from when you started it many years ago, to invite the pastor of the Flourish Church, because we want to find out, you know, how it's working, what's the attraction for churches today, because we really want this program to grow. So Micah, if you would bring Pastor Dexter Harris in with us, who's the pastor of the, there he is. Hi.
Hello, everyone. Good to be with you all. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you.
Thank you for taking the time. We know how busy you are. And so thank you for joining us. First of all, I understand from Claudine that you have a very, very kind of a, not unusual, but active church in your community. Tell us a little bit about Flourish Church.
Yeah, so Flourish Church, we planted in 2023. We are a multi-ethnic church in a predominantly Black city. We are very much a church that is desirous and on a journey to live outside of our four walls. We believe that the church is more than just a building, but we are to make impact where we are. I believe that the community should know that the church is there. And if not, then we're not doing the mission that Christ has given to us. And so we had a 20,000 square foot building donated to us about a couple years ago with 3 acres of land. And as a team, we just began to dream about, Lord, how can we utilize this space, you know, for your kingdom? And as we did research and really just dug into the community, what we realized is that there was a lot of good people doing a lot of good things already. And so we said, what would it look like for us to pool these social entrepreneurs together to create wraparound services around these vulnerable neighborhoods? And now we have over 20 partners. We have things from counseling through the week to youth addiction recovery to mentorship, partnership with DCS where they have access to a 24/7 foster closet. Kids can get their GEDs, and a host of other things. I don't want to soak up a lot of your time, but you get the point. We believe in collaboration. We believe in neighborhood support and supporting our neighborhood. And Can We Talk really just fit into that, which I can talk about a little bit later here. But Can We Talk was a no-brainer for me.
Well, you know what I love about what you're already doing before we join you, I think you represent the new church. Now, maybe churches have been doing this for hundreds of years, but not in my neighborhood. The idea of reaching out and doing all of these collaborative kinds of things is very much what Jesus wants us to do, but it's kind of new and radical. Do you look at it, Pastor?
Yeah, you know what? I think that we have, I mean, historically, like when we study the history of the church, it was something that the church did. It's something that we lost. We became very program oriented, very Sunday focused. Want to make sure that we keep those dollars rolling in. And I think that we stopped seeing people. We stopped seeing the neighborhood. One of my favorite verses is in Acts when John and Peter see the the paralyzed guy at the gate. It says that they looked at him intently. And so I think that, we just lost like just really looking at him and slowing down and being at the table again. Once again, going back to Can We Talk, one of the things that attracted me is that meal in that community, which I think that's what the church should be centered around. When we do things like that, I think we're going to see transformation on an exponential level.
Absolutely. We were just talking last night, Pastor, about another text where the 4 friends bring the paralyzed man through the roof. And
Yeah.
by any means necessary, we're going to get
That's
to
right.
this. And
That's right.
Healing is a soft
Mhm.
way to kind of understand who Jesus really is, I think. Yeah.
100%.
Tell me a little bit about Gary, Indiana. Only thing I remember is Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5.
Well, that is I mean, Michael Jackson is a big part of Gary, Indiana. But Gary, Indiana started in 1906. Gary, Indiana was extremely diverse because of the steel mills. And so you had people coming from all over the world to live in Gary, Indiana. When you get to, and of course it had its segregation and things like that, and certain groups would be in certain towns, and so you can kind of still see some of that history there. In fact, at the end of the last Sunday of this month, we're actually bringing in a Gary historian, to educate our church more during our Sunday service on that. But Gary, Indiana used to have a population over 300,000 people, and it is now dwindled down to 69,000 people. It has over 13,000 abandoned structures. 72% of the population is in poverty and below the medium income. But it was once a thriving and flourishing community. Of course, when it got its first black mayor, that impacted it. The decline of the steel mills impacted it. And so the reason why we named our church Flourish is because we have a desire to see the city of Gary flourish again. And we believe that if our God can raise the dead, he can raise their community.
Certainly can. Colleen, when you hear descriptions like what Pastor is saying about Gary, you look at it as trauma.
Yeah.
When you have all these disruptions of a thriving community, where do you put that in trauma? Is that institutional? Is that generational? Or is it a little bit of all of that? How do you?
It's all of it. It's all of it. And as you know, for me, looking back at the historical legacy of racism, we'll just start there and, go far back as that and even more. And then once on top of that, you layer families having trauma themselves, and the way we know that passes on through the DNA into future generations, so that you see symptoms in future generations for traumas they didn't actually experience. So you have that on top of it, and then you get the systems in a community, all structured with under, let's just be clear, white supremacy, where you've got that going, and so that even when people get ahead, they get slapped down in some way by the institutionalization and the rules and the regs and the police, all of this, wherever that's misrepresented, to say it least.
That certainly compounds to make the problem.
It sure does.
Describe that unless you've been through it, I think.
Yes.
I call it the inequity of trauma, the inequity of grief.
Yes.
It's kind of like it's compounded over generations from slavery, and it's hard to understand that, I think, unless you've been through it. But it is certainly a reality for us. But the church, as Pastor Harris has said, has always played a role back in the day as the institution that set up, slavery. It stood up against slavery, even though there were those in the churches who wanted slavery. And then the civil rights movement, that was the church. So in a way, the church is, by doing what your church is doing with Flourish, and what we're trying to do with Can We Talk, I think, like you said, we're taking some ground that we had before. Would you agree, Pastor, that this is the ground we need to take? Oh, maybe you couldn't hear me.
Yeah,
That's
you
all
break
right.
it up a little bit.
Yeah, well, it's just that the church can be restored through these kinds of programs. Did you hear that? Did you get that?
I definitely think it's a both and. One of the things that we experience is that the church, obviously its mission is to help people come alive through the gospel, but the church is also being invigorated by the work that's happening in the community and rubbing shoulders with the community. So now you got creativity happening, you have relationships being built, and I think during COVID, like we begin to crystallize the importance of one another, things that we had taken for granted. But I think COVID really created the stage for the necessity of community and for churches. I think God was shaking up the church and say, get outside of your four walls and let's begin to think in innovative ways because our God is creative. And so let us be creative. Let's paint. We need art for the things that God is calling us to do. And so I love to be a part of it as a pastor. I'm excited. I'm learning. I'm growing. I'm hearing so many different stories, and it's just exciting.
Well, we're excited. We're having some audio issues, but that's all right. God's bigger than the audio issues that we have. But thank you, Pastor. I don't know if that's going to continue, Micah. If we should just keep trying or not. Colleen, he talked about creativity, and that's a new kind of, not new, but that's an area that we're really exploring. Tell us a little bit about the creativity work going on at Can We Talk in Roxbury.
Yes. So if you're particularly referring to the expressive arts, right? And how, what we found instantly, it's just not rocket science, right? The minute people come from the meal and sit down for the Can We Talk, besides being welcomed and some guidelines read for safety, we just go right into some music. That could be instrumental, singing, or dancing. And we have found over these 10 years, for so many people who've come in to check this out, and wonder if it's a place they can stand to be in and safe to be in. They sit there and that music just brings down their stress, helps them feel like, oh, I know what this is. And then the communal experience of the music ends up having so many people start to share based on the music reminding them of something, or something a loved one that has passed loved, or just that it felt good and safe. And then people just start to get up and share. And the music's there to help.
Claude, do you guys have music in your programs yet, or how do you put those parts?
Yes, we have a wonderful guy who comes. We don't have a sax player like you guys do, but we have a wonderful. He plays the keyboard. Jakari is his name, and he plays a variety of music. I just noticed lately we don't play as much music because people are just going up to the mic, and so we don't get a lot of that. But we've had poetry read. A lady came and sang, and she even played music. So we've had a variety of artists to show up that we didn't even know were artists. Yeah.
And we don't, we as Black people, and this is not just a Black people thing, but I know that's where we come from.
Right.
We've always had that. I don't know if we always knew how healing it was, even though it's always been a part of our just who we are, part of our culture, right? Like right. Michael Jackson, for goodness sake. But right. But music is healing, we have found, as is poetry, as is breathing, as is all of contemplative acts right. that have been a part of the church and need to be a part of the church now. Yeah. So, yeah.
I have to say one thing. I've been going through a lot of changes. But I don't want to call them changes, but as this is progress. But I have to give Pastor Dexter his kudos. He has been so 100% behind. The minute he heard it, it was like I saw him leap with it. Yes, and he's there in every one, which is really supportive because people see if the pastor's involved and likes it, that's a big piece to it. So I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you, Pastor Dexter.
Can you hear us, Pastor Dexter?
No, I don't think he can hear us.
Because he can hear us. Well, he'll have to see the post of how popular he is and that he has so many fans. But yeah. It does take that to make it. Colleen, what else advice? And we're going to wrap up here because this has been a great conversation. But what other things do you think a community needs to start a Can We Talk?
Honestly, a loving heart. just starting right there, wanting to share the love. But we've seen so many people do it. And then, commitment to just form a team, because you don't want to be doing it without a team. And it doesn't take that many people in your church or in your organization. And that commitment to show up every month. And what we know is the consistency and showing up and people knowing what to expect when they show up is what helps people say, this is safe space I can trust, which becomes the first major thing they must have in order to keep coming and working on their own healing and feeling like they're in, because it's vulnerable space. We were just talking about this last night. It's supposed to be vulnerable space because this is showing you that we have to get vulnerable together in order to find through our relationships and connections that pathway to healing.
Absolutely. One of the things I've learned, I think one of the biggest lessons I've learned about myself through the Can We Talk program is the notion that we are all wounded. And the Bible tells us that. Of course, the Bible tells us we all suffer, but I think we don't think like that. We think, well, it's on them. They're wounded. Something's wrong with them. But it really are, and that's a leveler. That really, at Can We Talk, nobody's trying to heal anybody else. We're all opening ourselves up for healing, which I think is a very God kind of thing. Would you agree, both of you?
Yes, indeed.
And just take a moment. So I see a lot of people from Gary that, or from the church that are answering, people who are part of Can We Talk originally. I think I saw Michaela and some others. And so I wonder where people are tuning in from, because I'm just curious. I see it, and I see all the names go by. So can you see that, Reverend Liz?
See that you have Terry Weems. Is that
Yeah.
And I have all the names because we've got quite a few. Y'all can come on this anytime because you brought a good audience with you. So we thank you. Pastor, can you hear us now?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you. Good. We're getting ready to wrap up, but I'm just trying to get kind of the general lessons. What do you think is the best part about a program like, and it's like we're patting ourselves on the back. That's not what I mean. But the idea of a healing program like Can We Talk, what's the best part of that in your mind for the community?
Yeah, and I love that it is community driven. It's community empowering. Right? I love the simplicity of it. I think sometimes even in church, we feel like we got to put on a lot of performance in order to see transformation. But I love that this is stripped down. It's raw. It's real. You can be authentic. You don't have to wear a mask. People don't feel intimidated, right? It's easy to cultivate transparency and realness in spaces like that. And what I think people are desirous more than anything is transparency and authenticity. And honestly, I just think that's what Jesus offered, right? That's why I think sometimes he did a lot of his work outside of the church. And he was at tables with people who were unwelcome, people who were, people whom society said that you shouldn't touch. And so I feel like Can We Talk is truly a space where anybody can enter. You can share a meal, and then you get an opportunity to share about your week and your life. And I think in that connections are built and true community is built. And to me, that is at the heart of any community. And so I love it. I look forward to it. It's a big reason why I go. I take off my pastor hat when I go there. And hey, I'm just another person that's part of this community.
Well, you make us feel so good, and we thank you, and we're so glad you are a part of this community. People are commenting. I don't know, Claude, did you see that Jean Campbell commented? Claude just listening to her comments. There are people out here watching you from your community, and we're so glad that you all joined us. Colleen, do you want to have some parting words as you think about the future of Can We Talk? Because you want to take this everywhere, right?
Yep, that's right. I think the best thing I can say is, given the particular times we're in, make it even more so true what I'm about to say, that we all need access to the community in which to be together to heal. And so to be able to share this, we don't franchise it. It's about training people and being in community in a network, that there's a way of just knowing that people know what they need in their own community. And they need to know that they can be peers with their neighbors. and for their own healing together. And that's what makes me feel so excited about it. And just to share it as a model and be community in a national network together to just keep learning from each other. That's what I see.
Absolutely. And I liked what the pastor said earlier about, now he has many other programs in his church. There are many wonderful programs in Boston. I see Clementina Cherry on, and she's a good friend of ours, the Louis D. Brown Peace Institute. And Tina Cherry has done amazing work to help victims of violence and homicide victims in the Boston area. But we're not competitors. We can actually work with her and work with any other organization. It's the church doing church work. So that's what makes it special for me. But what else makes it special is I get to meet cool people like you guys.
Yes.
Would you like to say something, Pastor Harris?
Yeah, I just want to add to what you were saying. One of the things that we discovered, because in settings like that, people, they do begin to open up, and there is sometimes a myriad of other issues. And so it's good to have other organizations wrapping around something like Can We Talk, so that people can access those other things that they need. And often what we say is that we got to put our logos and our egos to the side and really focus in on people's transformation. So,
I like that. That'll preach. We got to put our logos and our egos aside. That works. You'll be hearing. Can I use that, Pastor?
Yeah, go for it.
But it's true that we're at a crucial time in life, and certainly in the history of this country. And there's a lot of wounds out there. I'm telling you, there's more wounds than you know, from more people than you know. And if we don't begin to try to get past that, and I think the Bible says, do not despise small beginnings. So it starts with your community, but who knows how God's going to move that and take that, as he has done all the way through the history of mankind. So we know that this is the program that can work with lots of different programs. And again, I thank you all for having joined me and tonight. Micah is the technician on this show. And Micah, do we have enough room that you could come out and raise that question that we want? Because we've got a lot of people out there. We have a question for the community to take on. If you're there, Micah, can you hear me? I know there he is. Micah loves to see these little boxes spread, so I thought we'd try it. Micah, are you there? Can't hear you if you're there. I know you're trying. There you are.
I'm sorry. Yeah, it's been a wonderful show tonight. Y'all are so amazing. And I think we do have some questions for the audience. We've had some amazing comments and input.
I'm looking at them. Yeah.
Yeah. So we have some. So here's what we have for the audience. I'm going to post it real quick, and I'm going to hop out so y'all can continue the conversation.
Okay. Well, we're gonna go maybe 2 more minutes. This is the longest the show has ever gone. And I know one of the questions that you have, Mike, is where have you found community in your life? One of the things that we kind of batter around is the word community. And community can cover lots of different things. Our churches, certainly, our schools, our work, our neighborhoods. But what we're talking about is a different kind of community, maybe not different from the church, and certainly aspirationally what the church is to be, but a community of people who trust each other and are vulnerable with each other. And I don't know how many places, where else can you find that? Tell me, anybody? The church, I'm going to give you that one, but I'm not sure that even churches do enough of that. Claudine, you got any ideas where you can find that kind of community where people can be vulnerable with each other and not worry about the mask that the pastor talked about? We can't hear you. Is you need to unmute. Yeah, what were you saying? You're there. We hear you. We lost you again. Just push that mute. There you go.
No, that's a great question. And I've never really thought about where you can be vulnerable, but it's not very many places to be vulnerable. In your home, maybe, but that can be difficult too. So I don't know.
I don't. Colleen?
Yeah, no, I think that after 10 years of being in so many Can We Talks, it is an awesome thing to see every single time that people will just drop in and come together and feel safe enough to go up and share part of what's going, 3 to 5 minutes of something that's going on in their lives. And it just speaks to the desire. It speaks to the yearning to belong and to connect and to go to the community, which people have done since ancient times. We just lost our ways in not doing it. I think we're rediscovering what we knew, generations back.
Sheila Atkins has said that she finds that kind of community in her family. And we certainly hope that everybody finds that in families.
Right.
But unfortunately, sadly, I know that, families struggle with that, with that kind of vulnerability. People, after a horrible tragedy, sometimes people go to their different rooms, close the doors, and don't connect with each other. So if your family is open like that, that's really good. But that's what we're trying to do. In a way, we're just kind of reminding ourselves, and Can We Talk, that we're human and that, we have potential to be divine. I think it's a real, like the pastor said, it's a simple concept. It's not rocket science.
No.
Michael Spangenberg says, but because of the trauma in our city, it can be hard to find places to connect. I think for many people in Gary, Can We Talk helps to fill the gaps created by trauma and oppression. So that's Michaela, not Michael.
Michaela, yeah.
Michaela, thank you. Sheila Atkins is still saying her family's very close. We're so glad that you took on that question and answered it for us. If anybody else has any thoughts, continue to post. And we've had more people tonight than we've had in ever. So thank you guys again. Pastor Dexter Harris, thank you. I pray that the Flourish Church will flourish. I know it will, because I can see that you're a man of God. Claudine, the next book I write, you're going to get it, okay? I do this. But the next time, girl, me and you, okay?
All right.
Colleen, who's been my partner on this, thanks for joining us. I'm going to give you the last words, Colleen. You got anything?
Oh my goodness, the last word. She never gives the last word. This is fabulous. I would just say, honestly, and this is from my heart, it's an opportunity to say this, since this is the first focused thing on the book we're doing as we start this. Imagine the honor I feel right now, Liz, that you have from the beginning welcomed me into this and started something like this in the church. A minister who said, let's go outside those four walls, as Pastor Dexter said, and who has proven that, and then is writing a book for the sole purpose of helping others get more healing to spread across. Who doesn't want to be part of that?
Wow.
So it's my honor and joy.
Well, thank you. It's my honor and joy to be with all of you tonight. And I know that if you have any doubts about God, the four of us can tell you God is in the healing business and healing right now.
Amen.
I don't care what you say, it's happening in the midst of chaos. That's the most amazing part.
Yes.
Pastor, I know you got a word to end. I'm gonna let you have a word now if you want to say something.
This has been wonderful. I just want to encourage anyone who's seeing this, if there's a Can We Talk close to you, I deeply encourage you to be a part of it. I feel your soul is going to be refreshed. It's going to be renewed. And we need to see more of these in our community, especially communities of trauma, where there is access to community, access for you to have a safe space. And so thank you all again for having me tonight. Thank you for allowing us to be part of your story. And thank you for having the courage to start something like this. Any dream is not easy to walk out. So thank you all for allowing us to be part of it.
Thank you all. God bless you all. Take care, everybody. We'll see you right back here next Tuesday. And it's from the heart. God bless. Night.
Bye-bye.
Good night.